So my name is Steve Briggs, and the story about my family that makes me think it would be strong would be when I was growing up as like a teenager between like 13 and 16. My mom and a bunch of the other women in the neighborhood would go to our local food bank. We lived in a really small town, a rural area, and they would go to the food bank on Thursdays, and you'd get like your basic staples like bread, peanut butter, pork and beans, all this like really kind of like the food that no one wanted to eat, so they just gave it to the food bank. And usually people would try and give back their rice, like the uncooked rice and the uncooked beans. But what my mom and some of the other like single mothers would do would be they would either come to my house or one of the other women's houses, and they'd start cooking that at like 1:30 after everybody got done with the food bank, and they would just start cooking in these gigantic stock pots with all this, just throw it together like bottom of the barrel, the fridge is empty stuff. And people would just start materializing like out of the woodwork between 4, 5, and 6, and they would put a gigantic piece of plywood on 2 sawhorses and throw like a sheet or something to give it like a tablecloth type feel, and we would all just sit there and we would have like these hour-long meals, and then there would be like a bonfire and people would just be like gathering and building that sense of community. And I mean, it was really amazing. And one of the other things is we had a chest freezer on our front porch, and we were usually the last ones in line at the food bank, and the milk that they were giving out was getting ready to expire. And so we would just get all the extras because they weren't going to save it for next week. And so we would get like crates of the like school lunch milk, and we would just stick it in the freezer, and people knew that like if you had that need, you could just come up and like grab a gallon or worth or something like that. And I mean, the expectation was that if you took it, that you would put it back when you had the resources available to do that. And so it was just like, it built an amazing sense of community because you'd have 20, 30, I remember one time we had like 50 people just all gathering at one of these women's houses, and you had everybody from like a 2-week-old to, like I think John was like 68 years old, and all these people would gather, they'd tell stories, how was your week, and all this kind of stuff, and it was an expectation of our community that would happen, and it just built such a strong sense of community that we were all there to care for each other. And then, I mean, if one person had a need and anybody in the community had the resources to meet that need, that need was going to be met. And so I think that really built a strong sense of family, and that strong family helped build a strong community. So that's my story.